aspect of social well-being is the ability to make and build and retain relationship with self and with the others of diverse age groups and diverse communities. That's also what you call the extraordinary level of being well, because you're comfortable in your skin, that you can put yourself out in the world to connect with and relate with. So in this context, the social media is and can be viewed as a very powerful tool, an amazing tool to connect with people you know, who are near you, who are far away from you, and people who are not known to you, but who has similar interest and similar background, similar approach to life. And the third is that you connect with people that whom you look up to, who inspire you, who can guide you, and who can show the way. So it's a kind of a nice spectrum of being most familiar and being connected with most unfamiliar. So I think the social media gives you that option, the possibilities. That platform is so vibrant and so rich and so deeper in terms of an ocean-like dive. And I think the social well-being is about navigating this known to unknown in a way that you don't lose yourself. So that's the dynamic between the social media and the social well-being, that you are in touch with the reality while you are also in touch with what you call the virtual reality.
Welcome to the Learning Circle, the ultimate video podcast for educators and parents who want to unleash the full potential of children. Join us as we explore the fascinating world of learning with the help of thought leaders who will share their knowledge and stories with us. This is your host 𝗕𝗨𝗧, and I'm excited to take you on this journey. Get ready to be inspired, informed, and entertained. In our exclusive interview with Dr. Lakshmi Kumar, we delve into the core of social well-being in times of social media preoccupation. Discover the importance of social well-being for students and its connection to their overall well-being. Dr. Kumar shares insights on the crucial role of schools and the significance of parental guidance in setting boundaries. Plus, don't miss out on Dr. Kumar's invaluable advice for students. And request you all to subscribe to our channel, The Learning Circle. Your support powers us to invite thought leaders and raise important conversations in education. Join us and be part of the change today. Please subscribe. Right, so we discussed these 5 aspects of the framework for social media usage, and each one of it is very crucial and has several nuances under it. So I would request you to throw more light on each, starting with purpose. And in purpose, I would really like you to focus on the endorsement part, because young children, they are their judgment is still being formed. So anybody who praises them or gives them some easy appreciation or some rewards, they can be prey to that. So it's very difficult for a young child to sort of judge what is whether I'm getting a positive endorsement or I'm falling into a trap, right? So for a young child, especially the purpose part, the others may be slightly easier to understand. The purpose part, because they go online for information, definitely, even a very young child. But the other part, the endorsements and connections. So how do we help the children navigate these aspects?
𝗕𝗨𝗧, I want to have this mirror reflection on us first. I think including adults, we all today are on social media platform hooked up for what you call this abundant endorsement.
Yes. The number of likes.
Mindless endorsements, And sometimes I am also doing that. I'm just browsing, I'm going through the Facebook, click, 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 Sometimes I'm clicking not because of anything, because I haven't, said liked to 𝗕𝗨𝗧's post for a very long time. So this is a very, very mindless endorsement. It has zero meaning attached to it, that it is as disengaged as it can be. It's almost like saying a blind hello to you as a formality. So I think it's a very human, intense need to be liked. So I think in that whole, ladder of Maslow, I don't know where, it's almost becoming the equivalent of the lowest, the hunger and the basic security and this love. I think it is kind of over consuming element of it is this endorsement, and including adults. I'm saying it because I think then we probably can transfer this empathy to children, is that I put a post, in half an hour, I want to know how many likes. The second is I want to know who all have liked. Okay, then I want to know whether, made any comments. And the who all liked is why, because is it in my known circle, people that I wanted to be liked, or people who are like, the second layer of the circle of slightly distant friends and relatives. And so I also want to kind of in my head create this hierarchy of the who liked it and who has, probably still stayed silent. So let's transfer this empathy of this action that adults are engaged in with children and with especially young people, that intense need to be liked. And I'm asking a question, is there a void within adults that we are seeking these likes? We want endorsement for, let's say I put a post about some education idea. I look at it and say, who has liked it, who has loved it, who has clapped for it, who felt it's insightful, let's say in the LinkedIn platform, and what kind of comments. I even want to turn on to the analytics. So I'm wondering whether it is anything to do with any void that is getting fulfilled, or it is a very subtle play of genuine acknowledgement that I'm seeking. Two, let's say when you go to the hierarchy of what you call the value social media, we put the LinkedIn on top, and then you have the, the Snapchat at the bottom. And I'm sure there are more medias that young children are using today. So we do have this moral value hierarchy in it. So let's take this moderate thing. The young people are not very FB. FB is my generation. Okay, my kids also don't. They're all in Instagram. Now that is the very, very powerful, quick consuming, and visible to the world too. So you put a post, and within no time you want to return to see how many likes. So I think this whole longing for an endorsement is very human, but when does it become dangerous? That's the thin line between the both, to have this endorphin or oxytocin coming to me, and then the next minute it flips me into depression. Is when I don't get it, do I say, oh yeah, okay, it wasn't something really dramatic, people didn't like it, or you start self-doubting, or you start putting questions about your, especially the most dangerous is when it is something to do with your self-image. Then you start self-doubting, then you start building this sense of mistrust in the environment, and that you start feeling inadequate, inferior, and that it kind of pulls you down. I think that's when that the whole engagement in social media begins to show the direction of not being able to manage our well-being.
Right. So helping children identify that thin line between seeking positive engagement and, on the other hand, just being hungry for validation and endorsements. So that is very critical. And to be able to do that, like you said, we adults first have to do some soul searching at our end and then probably guide how we interact with children about our usage of the social media, because they are going to follow our lead. So it's very important that we analyze our behavior, and similarly we enable children to analyze, to set up this positive line, this boundary on
Yeah.
purpose.
COVID has really become the era of digital liberation, so to say. All the families that are obsessed with digital control had to give in the entire password, and especially if you had an access to a digital or a handset, in the name of education online, the kids had the entire access. Hence, I think we need to acknowledge the fact that there is no going back of this digital freedom. I think what we need to inculcate in our students is, in our children, in ourselves, is that freedom with responsibility. So, for me, I think the most important thing is how can we promote healthy socialization via social media? Because we realize that all age groups need online companionship. And there are some age groups that really seek emotional intimacy online. And so I think we need to look at how do we create this social support, and how do we use functions of various aspects of the social media. Let's look at as a young person coming to realize about the sexual orientation. And here is where the topic could be something that adolescents feel reluctant to or unable to discuss with a parent or a caregiver. So I think here is where the social support, an online companionship, or some kind of a connect to promote the whole healthy socialization can happen. So, I think that's the first step. I think the second one for young people is to use the functionality and permissions in a way that we tailor it around the youth's developmental capabilities. Remember that young people feel they know it all, they are grown up. But we know that how a lot of their actions and responses are very hijacked narratives with their hormones, kicking on top. So I think we need to design the whole functions and consenting around the youth's developmental capabilities, and to definitely know that some things are not appropriate for children. And today you have a lot of that, filters that are available. Because I've given the phone to the child now, I've given the laptop to the child, and you still are, the whole world is talking about hybrid model. And, the entire university education is online. Half of your work life is online. So I think let's not pretend. Let's look ahead and say, okay, this is the situation, what do I do? I think the third one is, especially with the early adolescents, the 10 to 14, maybe some adult monitoring, to kind of have discussions and also to coach around social media content. It could be both parent, adult, caregiver, or a teacher. And I think this is very, very important, and we can say that you will have complete autonomy, but I think you're treading this path with well-informed choices, and I think knowing where you are heading. I think that's a very, very important. The third element is to have the adult monitoring. The fourth one is to somewhere we must acknowledge that there are psychological harm because of the social media, especially certain kind of content consumptions or certain kinds of exposure to the content that are illegal or psychologically maladaptive, or there are health risk behaviors. I mean, there's a whole lot of things that our children consume that needs to be very, very wary of, and it could even be a self-harm or harm to others, or you have promotion of eating disorders as a way of weight reduction. So you have a lot of health risk behaviors that are getting promoted. So I think a very, very important thing for us is to reduce the risk, which means we need to have this again an engaged conversation with the young people, sometimes actively us entering their world, because a lot of time we don't know what world they are living in. We don't enter their space of what movies they watch, what lyrics they are listening to in the songs, and what kind of soaps that they watch. So I think to be able to be part of their world is very important. And we also need to explain to them how this whole cyber hate campaigns, discriminations, prejudice, and lot of time onslaught towards a marginalized group. We also have sexual religious biases about it. All this needs to be identified, and I think we need to engage with them in this whole conversation. But maybe we need to have some kind of fixed frequency routine, what we call the health check of if they're showing any signs of problematic social media use, okay? And that is something that can be a regular conversation, or sometimes also just asking them to share with each other what kind of media platform they are in, we definitely need to make sure that social media activity cannot interfere with adolescents' sleep and physical activity. So if as an adult, especially at home, we see that this is leading to sleep deprivation, the child or a young person is choosing this over a game outside or a family picnic outside, I think that's also another signal that we need to look at. And this is very important, that if the social media is getting used for social comparison, especially around beauty or appearance related content, and I think we need to again kind of give some kind of a media literacy about how these are false promotions, these are not related to life. Remember, I talked about the purpose.
Yes.
Is this engagement really connected to, is it really related to me information seeking, or if it's an endorsement and the endorsement seems to be a social comparison, and that there is this whole thing about appearance related content, I think we need to definitely limit.
Yeah.
So that's a lot, but I think to be aware of again and again that it can have the best outcome. But it's also, we need to be very careful not to moralize and give this sermons about how, because the children see through it.
Yes.
So I also think sometimes to, let's say, watch together a nice stand-up comedy on social media, or what Simon Sinek talks about, because that's also social media on leadership, right? Or let's look at what is today happening with the Palestine and Israel, and there's so much the WhatsApp University is forwarding. But I think what is happening in today's families, including all our families, we're all sitting in our rooms, sometimes watching the same content, because it is, it kind of makes a circle. You get it, I get it, someone gets it, and then I forward it, and someone says, oh, it's already been there. And if you're in a large group, at least 5 people are forwarding the same. So obviously, this world is a very, very limited world, even though we want to believe it's expansive. So I think when we are consuming the same content, how about having a conversation about it? Or how about, hey, what do you think about? Because young people love to articulate. They would probably want to have a say about it, So I think to promote them to be active consumers, but to be responsible consumers, is the need of the hour. And I think that's the purpose of our education.
Right. So we mentioned a lot of points there, ma'am, definitely, and for a parent or an educator, there are so many things to take care of when we are allowing a child to navigate this world. One question I have, and that's regarding the content that they consume. Uh, does the framework sort of guide at what age children should, progressively consume more? Uh, Dangerous is probably not the right word, but more sensitive content. For example, a children of, let's say, 9-10 years of age should get on social media mainly to get information on the technical aspects or related topics, and not necessarily engage with other users. I'm talking about 9, 10, 11 years old, because at that time, it's very difficult for them to distinguish between a good or a bad engagement, and slowly and steadily they are allowed to engage. So we have some sort of a hierarchy of what we are exposing them to at different ages, so that they are exposed to a thing only when they have some judgment, some ability already developed. And this is also, in fact, this is important for the information consumption also, because nowadays there's a lot of false information also out there. We have these deep fakes, which is very difficult to identify even for us adults, right? So we may have these conversations, we may try to sensitize them, but I think some more guidelines on what they should be engaging with is also necessary.
See, there's a plenty of that available, including the UN framework.
Okay.
So while the school can provide the literacy element of it, the social media literacy, and certain tips or framework to each group, it's in the realm of parents and children. I think it's a home that needs to be very, very careful, because there is very clearly a legal age for being part of certain social media platform. But I've seen parents who even will post and boast about how my 5-year-old is driving a two-wheeler.
Yes.
It's exactly that.
Yeah.
That there is a legal framework. But if you don't want to, kind of abide by it, and you, in the name of giving the freedom or access, that's mainly because you don't have the time. So you have guilt washed it with this new toy called phone, expensive phones, expensive gadgets. And I think then you're lost the plot. Then you're not really teaching our students, our young people, our children, that there is something called doing the right thing at the right age. Because the content has to be age appropriate. Otherwise, in our life skills program, our 9th grade and 8th grade have come with so much information because they've already seen, heard, read and visually seen porno material, wrong information about, sexuality, and wrong ideas about gender. They've already been filled with it. Then it's a school that is sitting there and saying, okay, here is the carpet, we are rolling it out. Nothing will be pushed under the carpet, bring it in for discussions. So we do create a safe space for all questions can be openly talked about. But children are very cautious because they also know that what they have done is something that probably is not appropriate. So they also share very cautiously. So I think I'm going back to the quality of parent-child connect, the quality of parent-child relationship, the respectful but very trustful, engagement with your child, and to be a a disciplinarian and not feeling like that you have to be the friend of the child. These are all very wrong conceptions about relationship between an adult and child. I'm a parent and I have a role. I'm not my child's friend. I can be friendly, but I have a role of very clearly some love and some discipline and some guidance and some conversations, some laughter. But in all this, I cannot lose out on my role of being this mentor who will also not hesitate to say, sorry, that is not accepted here. But our relationships right now are so fragile that a lot of time children kind of hijack you emotionally.
Right.
So parents feel very vulnerable, very helpless, and a lot of times when they land up in the psychiatric clinics and wards, they feel like victims. But I think we need to go back to how did it all start? How was my 3-year happy child, ended up with this mess? And to clearly recognize that we've been part of this design. We've been part of the problem, and hence I think we need to be part of the solution.
Right. I think the parents, not all parents may be equipped to handle the situation because things are getting more and more complex. And even though the parents may be on social media, they may not be knowing all the dangers and little nuances of it. So, do you think the schools, the educational institutions can work with the parents to sensitize them and also prepare them to handle it? Of course, there is a whole relationship aspect with the parents have to figure out on their own, but at least with respect to the social media handling, there can be some hand holding for the parents from the educational institutes.
Yeah, so there are three aspects to this. Okay. So one is this whole preventive. So you have a campaign building awareness, you send information, you invite an expert talk so parents can understand, or parents themselves are working in the space of digital literacy, a lot of them, so they can be invited to have a group discussion, focus group discussions. So, and that also to use social media to build this campaign. So I'm reaching out to you through your means, so I'm not judging you. Okay, that's one. And the promotive is more actively engaging with the advantages of reducing this social media engagement and building an alternate narrative for healthy real-time building relationships. If you look at today, all of us but young people are used to connecting with others only through, hey, what's up? The other one will say, hey, what's up? So what you're doing, of course, forget the spellings. What you're doing, nothing chilling out.
Yeah.
What are you doing? Nothing chilling out. I mean, the conversation is going nowhere. And they're buried in it that sometimes when they are put to real people, and this happened, all of us will recall, after 2 years of being in this COVID online, stupor, when the students came, first few days, they didn't know how to relate to each other. They didn't have enough vocabulary to talk to. They were awkward. So today, we seem to be more comfortable being more fluent in the social media platform than in the real human to human connect. So I think the promotive element needs to be focusing on what we call the alternate narratives, without dumping without moralizing, without sermonizing on the social media, to say what are the other ways of also connecting with people, building real-time intimacy, sharing problems, seeking support. So there are human to human. So that's a second one. And then you have the third one, which is the therapeutic intervention that school must look at, is that there comes a time that the engagement has become toxic. Engagement has, built a lot of psychological, ill health, and that it has gone to the level of addiction. or that it is it's something that is not safe for the child. You have platforms like telonym, where children, I don't know if you've heard of this, called telonym. So you can be anonymous in that platform and you can say anything. So you can create a small network. So I can tell you my feelings without you knowing who has said. And and to the extent that suddenly in no moment you realize a pervert has like crept in, and it's almost like you have no point of return. And require a cybersecurity expert, maybe a legal advisor, maybe psychological intervention, maybe a therapist, or maybe a de-addiction rehab. So you need to also be equipped to refer them to the appropriate support system. So you need to, as a school, engage in all the three levels of preventive, promotive, and therapeutic interventions.
Right. And I think our schools still need a long way to reach that stage where they can offer this kind of hand-holding and guidance, and maybe step in when something like this happens. So
But the
also.
irony is that again, there's a lot of campaign available. All schools do that, but who is your audience? It's not the parents whose children really need. So you realize the cause and effect cycle.
Yeah.
Parents whose children are really trapped in this are not there in front of you because they're busy, or they think ये तो problem हमारे घर में नहीं है.
Right.
This on our doors, who I am watching. So you kind of live in a fallacy of control. So you get a bunch of parents who are the very converted, who are very active, who have probably figured it out and who want to be better parent are the ones who are coming. So you also get frustrated because you know that a lot of parents need this for their own children, but it almost feels like, as I said, there is a level of disengagement. And you see that, in a school concert, if a child is 3-year-old or a 5-year-old, entire family comes. And the auditorium is full, super full. And when your 15-year-old is performing, one is the 15-year-old will also tell you there is no need for you to come. And the parent also is like pretty lost and in his or her own pursuit of pleasure and happiness in the name of career building. They don't have time. They will come only for what they call the meta questions like board exams, or how is the marks going to be used for assessment. So they will come only for that. Then you have the auditorium fill. But when it comes to understanding how to guide your child on physical growth, mental growth, emotional support, sexual evolution and evolving, you have 30% of the parents in front of you. So that's something that parents have to realize, that there is no expiry date for parenting. It's not like you're completely evolved. You constantly have to continue to learn, because the challenges of parenting today are very different from challenges of how you and I got parented by our parents.
Right. So for the parents who are listening, the quality of engagement, the quality of relationship that you have with your child is the key to their social well-being, even in terms of the social media use. So
And I think
that's a key
it's a
message.
matter of 15, 17 years. And I think parents need to commit to that. Your child is not going to need endlessly this kind of a support all through. Hopefully not. They probably will require more like a crisis support or celebration movements. That's all. But when they are with you, when they are at your care, when they are in your everyday reality, I think they must be the priority.
Right. Definitely. Definitely. So that's a key message for all parents. Thanks for sharing that, ma'am. And you have shared a lot of things that the parents have to guide the children to be careful about.